pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was choking on peppermint patty.
What?
During,
Yeah,
I
don't
was
do that.
choking on peppermint patty.
Don't do that. Unbelievable.
Make a motion to approve the non-public and public meeting minutes of April 2nd, 2025, April 3, 2025, and April 11, 2025.
Second.
Motion by Sean, second by Scott. Sorry, my computer's messed up. To approve the
Public and non-public.
non-public and public meetings of April 2nd, April 3rd, and April 11th. Trying to remember why we had a meeting on April.
April 11th was an emergency non-public
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
What's
You weren't
that?
here.
April
Emergency
11th
non-public.
was an emergency non-public meeting.
Yes.
And April 2nd,
Second, third?
Yeah.
yeah, that's the wrong date.
Yeah, they were back to back.
April 3rd.
No, because I was there for the first.
Do you want to skip the April 2nd ones for now, and I'll double check what they are and bring them back to your next meeting?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Because it says April 2nd, but it's not right.
Yeah, April 3rd's correct,
And the 11th is correct.
and the 11th is correct,
We didn't do non-public the night before.
but we had a non-public on the,
It was the
The
initial
7
and the follow-up.
Did we do
What
it
did
the
you do?
second? Yeah, we did. Did we do it the
We had
second?
two of
then?
them.
we had one on the 11th, and I believe we had one on the 7th?
I think it was the 7th, not the 2nd.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yes, well, Conservation Commission night, because you were here, so it would have been the 2nd.
Yeah,
so
that was
right.
the second one upstairs.
It was Conservation Commission night, it was the 2nd.
Yep.
So that is correct.
No, it wasn't, because I wasn't in town.
On the
Yeah,
2nd?
You weren't here for one.
No, you wouldn't, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
true,
don't
but. Were you here for the 2nd at all?
Yeah, you were here
You
for the
were
2nd,
here.
you weren't here for the 3rd.
Right, you left
Yeah.
on the 3rd.
Yeah, you left
That's
after.
what
Okay.
That's what it was.
Good God.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So the-
yeah,
yes,
the
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 second-
third is the regular meeting minutes.
Yes.
I'll just shut them.
So the
All
2nd. Good God.
You
That's
need to
what
go back on
We
vacation.
had way too
So the
many
motion
meetings.
stands.
Told you, I'm not all here tonight, buddy.
Way too many meetings.
Warned everybody. We get another peppermint patty. in
So it's
here.
it's good as is.
Yes,
Yes.
it's good as is. Any discussion?
No.
No further.
We did have a motion, right?
We did.
You just have to vote.
All right.
You just have to
Um,
vote.
Yeah, so hearing no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I'm going to abstain because I was not here on the 3rd.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to accept the consent agenda for 4/17/25, consisting of accounts payable manifest dated 4/8/25, accounts payable NHRS payment manifest dated 4/8/25, accounts payable WEX payment manifest dated 4/8/25, accounts payable manifest for 4/17/25, accounts payable Harper's payment manifest dated 4/17/25, payroll payment manifest dated 4/8/25, intent to excavate for intent number 25-059-01, map lot 225005, 2025 supplemental tax warrant for map lot 115-034 in the amount of $18,535. Veterans credit for map lot 203-109 in the amount of $750. Disabled veterans credit for map lot 203-109 in the amount of $1,700.
prorated assessment for damaged buildings for map lot 115-061 to revise the assessment from recent fire from
Too many.
$156,600 to $2,100. And resignation of Cindy Rogers for the Bristol Fire Department call roster.
I will second, and have a question on number 8. Is that what we talked about earlier?
No. That's, the supplemental tax warrant is, for Newfound,
Hydro.
no, it's the Newfound Meadows, sorry, I had to think about which one it was. They apply for a special assessment, so we have to do it as a different tax warrant, even though, so we've done this ahead of time. We know what their assessment's gonna be for the first half, and we have to do this at the second half, because they've applied under what's called a PA 65 for reduced income, low income housing tax credit program. They're the only property that has that.
Yep.
Question on number 7. I know it references the map lot, so it probably doesn't matter, but it, under, where did it go now? Under access road listed, it says Route 104 Morrison Road. Morrison Road is off of Bristol Hill.
There's Morrison Road that also comes out through Freudenberg.
Right.
This is
Right.
it's the airport. So
Okay, all right, I'm
Like
thinking the other, never mind.
it's on
never
the
mind.
field in the airport property.
Yeah, never mind.
Paul Rob's off to a tough start.
I am off to very tough stuff. All right, start. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And,
Make a motion to seal the non-public meeting minutes from tonight indefinitely because it is determined that divulgence of the information likely would affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of this board.
Second.
Who was the second?
Aye.
Motion by Sean, second by Don.
Motion by Scott.
Motion by Scott. Remember I had one of these meetings last year? Motion by Scott, second by
About how
Sean.
I was gonna be tonight.
Seal the non-public and public meetings of tonight's, excuse me, seal the non-public meetings, non-public minutes of tonight's, the minutes of tonight's non-public meeting, yes.
Shannon's gonna have a good laugh when she's looking at her.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Don, you might need to take
One
over.
more strike and yeah, you're out. We're gonna
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll keep you
We're
honest,
gonna
don't
bring
worry.
in really picture.
Just start an over under. How many do you think you got in here for the night?
I didn't get a nap today. Jeff?
Under number 4, which one do you want, does it matter which one you want to start? Oh, well, operating training's easy, so number 4, minor changes on that. Unfortunately, it is not showing you track changes on it, but I'll open it for Jeff.
Actually, why don't you go to the hot seats here on the mic, Jeff?
Yeah.
Sorry.
This had been previously approved when we hired Ben Sanborn back in December. And Jeff and I were looking at this, and the title that you previously approved said technician dash operator in training. And I'll let you explain why you want
Yeah,
to
we
change
just, we updated it. I think it was more fitting for what we hired Ben on as, so.
And really, it's just the title that changed,
On his,
and the
yeah.
dates,
Yeah.
and who assigned it. Other than that, that's it, so.
It's good to me.
Somebody move it?
I'll make a motion to approve the job description for operator in training for the water and sewer department.
We'll second.
Motion by Don, second by Sean to approve the operator in training position for the water and sewer. Water and sewer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
So just real quick, I open up the PDF, and it looks like customer callouts is crossed out, is that
Yes.
meant to be crossed out?
It's redundant.
Okay.
Should just say
On the
including customer
PDF, it
service
said that?
calls.
Which,
I got the PDF, and I'm just, all
are
I'm
you
saying is,
looking
we're
at
approving something
operator
that's,
training now, or are you looking at the office manager?
Let's look at the
Oh, maybe,
PDF of,
yeah, I think that's-
yes. I'm pulling her up. That's all.
Oh, okay, so it's,
and you
because
just
I'll-
led me down the same path.
Kind of blind leading the
Okay,
blind
good.
here.
Yeah, we're good. For this one. Discussion's over for me.
Okay.
So we got a motion and a second, time to vote.
I'm just gonna run the meeting with you guys, just do the talking, so.
I think I need chocolate.
All right, so we got a motion on the floor. Any just further discussion?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes.
Okay, so there are 3 documents related to, in your folders. Let me go back to it. There's, PDFs are easier to open, so I may have missed fixing something on that, but the one you want to look at to see the crossouts is the office manager. It says 2025, but it shows all of the, and I didn't do all these, Jeff did, but we did them together. It shows all the changes in there. The red, and blue are added, the crossouts and highlights it looks being removed. And then we put it into the same format that we do all of our other job descriptions with the title of the department, the status, and the grade. And then, I don't know if you want to point anything specific out, Jeff?
I don't think there was anything
Well, right now, you're in Word with the changes turned on.
Yeah, this
I
is
guess-
showing you the changes, and then if you want to see a clean document, it's the other. You don't
Right,
need
but
the-
what
yeah.
I was saying was earlier, the PDF does show a crossout right now in callouts.
But is it in this?
Yep.
Yes.
It's-
Yes, it is. All
Right.
right, so that, I did miss taking that out. Thank you for pointing that out.
Well, I just didn't want us to approve something
You-
that we had to sign.
You can sign it if you're okay with that, and I can correct the first page, which is the callouts, if that's the only thing that jumps out, but.
That's the only thing I saw that was still crossed out.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Okay.
Can't believe I picked up on that in the station. Somebody want to move this?
I'll move that we approve the office manager job description. What else do I have to have on that? Anything else?
With the amendment.
With what?
With the amendment.
Oh, yes, with fixing the call-out cross-out.
I will second.
Okay.
Motion by John, second by Sean. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. What else you got, Jeff?
That was easy,
I
Jeff.
think that's it.
You need to get that was easy
Oh,
one.
is
Yeah. Do you have something?
We probably should tell Rob that we had to put him down. So, I didn't give, on the
Oh, yeah.
authorized, we had to fill out these forms for the state, and every year they change something on us, and they ding us and fail us and reject the report, and we're like, okay, now what do we need to do? So last year I was the owner, and the authorized rep. This year they won't let me be both. So we put Robin as the owner, as the chair of the board. We have to we'll have to update it every year.
Okay.
And then I'm the authorized rep. Jeff is the
Backup.
backup operator. Jesse is Jesse is the operator in charge,
Yeah, he's an operator, yeah.
and Jeff is the backup operator. They make you fill out, you have to go through their portal, you have to submit it all in, and you have a deadline to submit it. So you were the owner as the chair of the
The
board
entire
right
water
now.
and sewer department, excellent.
Just the sewer, that's, We give you the good ones.
People said I'd never make anything out of myself.
There's so many comments there with that one.
Just the crappy part.
We got the new ones in, but we have to get them rolled out, sorry.
All right, well, thank you, Jeff, for.
Well, thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
So am I.
Have
a good night, Jeff.
Chief Flora.
Oh, there's a bag across the parking lot.
I'll give you a call first off.
There's nothing in your folders, so Ben will just tell you when he meets.
So the HMP update, so the HMP was adopted last year, officially, finally, after several years of working on it. So that's the hazard mitigation plan that we did over the course of a couple years, again, adopted by FEMA last year. And so just annually, we're supposed to go in and kind of review it and say, out of the action items, did we accomplish anything? Did we accomplish nothing? Did we decide that an action item needed to be removed, or we can't really add anything, but we could make note that we had to do some other action in anticipation for it. So I'm just gonna give you kind of a high level of what I put in here for notes. And if there's no other comments toward the hazard mitigation plan, Rob can sign it as the chair, and it just gets filed in the file that's in my office. So no changes are needed to be made to the current plan. Many of the actions that are in the plan, this is available on the website. If you go to the fire department page, on the left-hand tabs is emergency management, and there's the EOP, and there's the HMP, the hazard mitigation plan. Anybody's welcome to look at. So a lot of the action items are kind of continuous or ongoing actions. The first four specifically, without reading them, I just noted these are relative to vegetation removal or trimming, culvert maintenance, signage, addressing, like homes and businesses, and hydrant maintenance. So that's stuff that we're continuously working on, or somebody's continuously working on throughout the year. There are other specific projects identified. Those are just kind of the general town as a whole. So action item 16, which is relative to generators at town infrastructure. We haven't really made any progress, but certainly this year, it's really busy. So the approval of using the grant right at this year's town meeting to replace and properly size the generator at the public safety building is a positive step toward that, which will also allow for that generator that's there to be moved to the highway garage at some point in the future. Positive step toward the plan. Also, selling the current fire station means that the current emergency management generator that's on a trailer that was previously used for that building can move to the highway department for a little while, so they have at least a portable generator, and then it'll likely move to water and sewer for storage for continued use, and then for the couple of times a year that they need it. So positive steps on that action item. 18 is relative to the Central Street pump station. So obviously this project saw some movement forward in 2024, and then saw some movement to a stalled state recently, right?
Repeat that.
Central Street pump station
Yes.
is kind of on the back burner. So
Well, we should be starting pumping in June.
okay, I can certainly change that, but it's at least not done. So.
Right.
And then I just put a note in here that many of the other items, most of the other items are very specific to highway, emergency management, fire department, and water and sewer. And really over the last year, kind of the first year we've been working under this plan, there's been personnel changes, labor issues, and other projects like the building to complete. So my plan really this year is to be working with specifically Victor and Jeff on, hey, here's what it says in the plan, what are we doing, and what can we start looking at doing, and if it's ever a thing again, finding funding for. So that's the update. We can get a lot done, but we certainly made some steps and continue to do the things that we need to do to kind of keep us from the natural disaster hazards and stuff like that.
do have a couple questions about the generator thing, but not, I don't wanna take that time up now, but maybe we can put that on a future thing. Maybe it's things like, I know we're trying to size it up, but did we have the energy committee do any workups around other options? And then how does that impact pricing and stuff like that? So we can, you know, again, we can schedule that at a future time. I'm not trying to take that up, but when you brought up the generators, it just jogged my memory.
Just to clarify, you mean past the energy committee if there are different alternatives for the generator,
Well,
or
it's-
for the size of the generator? Just
Not really for the size, I don't, it sort of depends, and this is gonna go to some of our infrastructure that we're trying to protect with the generator, right? The reason why I say it that way is, the reason for the generator is provide power in the event of emergencies. But there are certain pieces of equipment that we don't want to lose power, which then means UPSs and stuff like that. So, the technology being what it is, there are probably several options around, whether it's solar or whatever, like I, just, so it's more about that, but I'm not looking to derail us, I'm just saying let's add that, because they may have some interesting ideas.
Okay.
Anything else? Let me leave
Do we
without
need to
signature.
approve that tonight, or?
You just need to sign off that we presented it at
Okay.
the meeting. You're not
Gotcha.
really approving what I
Okay.
wrote, it's just that I reported out, and we can add it to the file and hopefully have a little bit more robust update next year.
Yeah, you don't need the motion, just sign. So.
What was the other thing?
Oh, I have it on here.
I know it took me forever to find the action items. You have fire department posting warrant article positions.
Yeah, so just a quick update on the plan for that. So obviously, there's still the current opening that we've had for several months, we'll refer to it as, almost a year. We do have a couple of applications for that position, as well as some testing that's coming up. Next week, in all likelihood, I will have a candidate for the first May meeting to fill that currently open position. The new positions, they'll post on Monday. So this Monday's the 21st. They'll be open for roughly a month. They'll close roughly the 21st of May. That stretch of periods there. We'll do resume reviews, the whole 9 yards. Oral boards will hopefully be held, will probably be held during the week of Memorial Day week, so that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere in there, one of those days. Obviously, that's a holiday week, but the holiday's over at that point. We would still have some flexibility to go out another week. The concern that I have is that there'll be probably a likelihood that we run ride-along interviews, so I'd schedule a candidate for a day to come in for an 8-hour period and really get a little bit better feel than you can get in a 1-hour oral board. And then chief's interviews. So when you're doing all that, in order to have any potential hires in front of the board before the June 17th, I think it is, whatever the second meeting in June is, which would allow then those people to start when the new contract takes effect. That'd be the week that we're looking at. So that's just really the update. I think we're pretty close to filling the currently open position. I think based on the people that are testing and some of the interest in those positions, I think we'll be fairly successful. We'd be crazy to ignore the realities of the current public safety workforce, and that, you know, I feel better today than I did 2 days ago, just based on some applications that came in, but you know, there's a strong likelihood that we move into the first, you know, month, 2 months, 3 months of this contract not having all the positions filled.
Yeah.
So we do have a contract that says we're going to minimum staff at 3. That may have some overtime implication. Obviously, if those positions aren't filled, then there's some offsetting funds. In all likelihood, myself and the deputy for some period of time will, depending on how much we are open, we'll probably do some modified schedules to make that work and help out as far as the cost goes. Because like I have explained to everyone, we had a really good staff meeting yesterday. A lot of this was around this stuff and the changes internally that need to happen. This, one, we need to staff because that's what the contract says. And 2, this can't cost anything more than what we said it was going to cost. So you know, the deputy and I might work some Wednesdays and then just a few days that week and, you know, whatever. It's probably not bad for either one of us to get on a truck for a 24-hour shift, so. But I feel a lot better today than I did the other day. That's the plan.
Thank you, Chief. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Victor?
For the 2025 projects, there's nothing in your file, but Victor wanted to come in and talk to you about them because we have to start. I know there was some concerns mentioned in the planning session about getting us off the ground with the road maintenance plan. But we have to start stockpiling and ordering supplies for the 2025 projects now, so I brought Victor in to have that conversation with the board.
I'm gonna say, back off.
Yeah, we gotta get the signature. Yeah. You were very contagious, Rob.
I think it is rubbing off on everybody.
I think somebody put something in my coffee or something. Well, they gave me decaf.
I think it's
or-
in the air. It's
Yeah.
gotta be, we're all.
It's totally in here.
Yeah. Sorry, Victor.
That's all right.
First of all, thank you for you and your crew. You guys did a great job this winter.
Yeah, the crew, I
No,
can't,
you too, you
say
too.
enough good about them. They're doing really, really well.
Please pass that on, well, unless anybody else disagrees, please pass that on from all of us to your guys.
100%.
I will.
Yeah, let them know we notice.
Yep.
So I don't know what the questions were that were traded at the last meeting or whatever. So I'm not blind about it, I'm here to answer any questions you guys have.
So, okay.
Go ahead, Sean.
I don't have any specific, my question is, if you're planning on doing X amount of miles of paving and road work, would, in that plan that you have for particular streets,
Mhm.
is it what I would say, not in a derogatory sense, but business as usual? Or would you, if you had your choice, would you take maybe one street off and do the ditch work that we need to,
So,
that we need to do, and the culvert upsizing and?
yeah, so I think, the previous board, when I presented all this, it is not going to be business as usual. And one of the big things that I was pushing for is I wanted that working group about forecasting our roads and our
Yeah.
conditions. The projects that we've got lined up are because of failed drainage.
Yeah.
Drainage has just come to an end, and we've got a major one that's coming up. So when we talked about, the first issue was money, and how much money we were willing to spend, and the decision that was made in 2023 to go into 2024, the previous superintendent did not follow, and he came to the board and they made a redirect, which was supposed to be 2024, was supposed to shim, top coat Bristol Hill and Smith River Road. The number was too high for the select board money-wise, so we had a long discussion about that, and we removed Smith River Road because it's more of a level road and it's not starting to scale. It's 2 years without a top coat on it. But the select board did agree that Bristol Hill needed to have a top coat put on it because it's starting to scale. We didn't ever put a binder coat on it. So with that, the select board, this past select board said to me, well, we don't want to see this number, but we'd like to see another number. And I said, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to just go around top of it, but I did have, they said, get the number to around 300,000. So with the quotes that I had gotten, I wanted to delete 2 dirt roads, or 3 dirt roads.
Yeah.
And those numbers came in that got us just below 300,000, and so we presented the budget committee with 300,000, just in case some price changes and all that. So that will eliminate Ernest, John L., and Harriet,
Yeah.
which they are all sitting with RCP drainage under reinforced concrete pipe.
Okay.
The laterals, which are driveways, are what they are, and if
if we have a failed one that's gonna take an apron on it, we'll address that before they come on. So the select board and the budget committee realized that what I was trying to do is eliminate, because we know the grader's failing and going down, and we've wanted to start getting rid of especially on Hall Road, the dirt's up there, and limit it. So that was the decision made at last year's board and budget committee. I said, so then we built, I don't know if you look back, we didn't really have a project line, drainage project line, and so we developed that, and I came up with a number of some projects that are really highlighted and that were problems, and they accepted several of the jobs on the drain. So now you're line number 4312 360, we now call drainage projects, which was an old line that Mark had and zero funded, sometimes $1, and sometimes he'd add to it and he'd bust or he'd clean up out of some of the maintenance lines. So we increased that to about 15,800, I think is what we approved, and we've got on there to finish the Chestnut Street, which has now got a problem, and we can discuss that if you'd like. 4th Street's failing, and then Jeff hit it during a water dig last year and collapsed one end of it, so that project has to go. And 300 Lake Street is an easement that we have from Green Street down between the Chinese restaurant and that, which is failing and collapsing that parking lot. So we kind of summarized that those are the highlights, and I priced them out, budgeted them out as best I could, tight on the dollars I could. I may run a little heavier or that on it, and we came up with that number. I have all the spreadsheets if you want to look at them or anything like that.
No, you've already told me what I wanted to know is, so instead of repaving something that's been 10 years, but not getting the ditches where we need them to be, or the culverts where we need them to be.
Right, so, and with that being said, with those meetings with the select board, not so much the budget committee, the select board, I had asked if we could build with Christina and myself, I would like a selectman to sit on it, and if we want somebody from the budget committee, which I think Paul Regan is very interested in it, and build a working group, because I have a long-range forecast of issues. Like we do know, so for an example, from the Newfound River all the way up to the Meadows is a 3-foot failing culvert system that we have. We have sewer system cutting through it. We have all kinds of issues. It would be a contract. We would have to budget that. It'd have to be contracted out, but it's a 3-footer that goes all the way up 2nd Street through the right-of-way from Walnut Street up to Prospect Street, and then up through private property to the Meadows. And it's failing. I mean, it's collapsing the roads in several locations. That is a capital project that we'd have to look funding for. This is not something that we'd have to add to the budget, or well, we'd have to add our percentage to, but we're gonna have to get a grant and start looking into that. Chestnut Street is a failed system right now that we're having problems that we have to get on right now. And we've done some repairs up on Allen Lane because it failed up there so bad it took the road. But from now, the corner of Ellen and partially up Ellen all the way down to High Street is just sucking up the road.
Yeah.
So the intent was to get a working group together that we can now say, listen, these are our red lists and what it is, and what we'd like to do is repair these roads and then make them the priority on paving, not that year, but 2 years after that, so that we can get some sag. Sometimes we have bad compaction.
Let it settle and,
right, like we did the Beach Street project last year where it failed, and we've got some sag around that we've got to fix this year, and that would be the intent, is we're not going to pave over a bad product, so the goal is to, I think Mark did a great job getting us to this point, but we are at this point on many of the roads where the drainage has to be addressed.
yeah.
The ditching in some of them has to be addressed, but sometimes it's just upgrading culverts from 12s to 15s and get rid of some of the failed pipe that is now, because Mark paved it 8 years ago, the culvert was accepting the water, but it's 8 years later and it may be the point where
It's
we.
undermining it.
Right, we've got to do, we lost North Main Street in 3 sections up there. We fixed it, you know, we put Band-Aids on it sometimes, and then we have to fix the whole thing. So that's the idea behind the working group with the selectmen, a budget committee, the TA, and myself to go, we need to prioritize this stuff and then relook at how we're gonna start paving when we bring it back into line.
And you haven't started that work.
I have physically built a skeleton
Yeah,
over the winter.
okay.
And I'm at the point where I say, I need to sit with the working group and go, how do we want to attack this?
If
You know.
it's okay with the board,
I
I'd
was
very
gonna say, is that
much.
something you'd like to do?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a light lift this year and I'm really interested in the road
Yeah.
situation, so.
I mean, the only thing, the questions that come to me as I'm thinking about it, right, like, it becomes a question of funding, and then, you know, some of the bigger projects, like the 3-footer he was talking about, clearly, because it's such a large project, if we can figure out a grant, that's sort of one thing.
Yeah.
But some of the smaller ones, it's almost like as part of CIP, if we can sort of use the methodology you're talking about and develop a schedule and go, okay, here's how this looks.
Well, and that's, you know,
That
Rob,
way you get
you know, so just on a side note, Rob and I have had several conversations about it, and one of the things, and the town administrator and I have a monthly meeting, and I keep her very abreast to what I foresee when things like 4th Street, when it changed, she said, oh, don't worry about it, you already budgeted for that. I was like, oh, God, you know, thank God somebody remembered, you know. You know, Rob had a great suggestion that if we keep 4312, 360 as a line number, and then say, hey, what can we do between 10,000 and 15,000 a year from the highway department? And then again, just like you're saying, John, is the bigger projects.
Yeah.
That working group can sit there and say, you know, maybe Sean says, I will look into grants or whatever, or I can say, hey, I'll work with you, I've got this, you know, and we get a grant looked at for the bigger projects.
Yeah.
And we can forecast the smaller repairs out, you know, through the budget line, and then try to just operate within those parameters of the budget, the smaller repairs.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and if you also have a plan in place, you can take it to CIP and say, okay, well, we've projected out in 5 years, we have to do this big repair, and it's
Right.
gonna cost a lot more money, so you can put it in the plan.
The only issue that we have is Mother Nature, is she will dictate to us sometimes that she's gonna fail a system before we want her to.
Yeah.
So the best laid plans of mice and men, I
Right.
mean, all you can do is if you've done the plan,
Right,
and we're following the plan, and if we have an emergency, then we deal with the emergency.
correct.
Change plan.
Yeah.
You get as numb as my mind is tonight, you got it spinning a little bit.
Oh, I thought you said I had spit on you, sorry.
Just getting into paving Ernest, Janelle, Harriet. The RCP on all those roads is 30 years old. What's your confidence level on that?
Very high, because we had a filed RCP going down the flat, and it was because of a bigger than a bowling ball rolled halfway down 3 lengths of it. That's how much water pressure was behind it. The pipe was in great shape. The one down on the corner, the only one that is not RCP, is down at the corner of John L. and Ernest,
Yeah.
which is, it's not 36 inches, it's probably a 27-inch gal, but she's still got a bottom to it.
Yeah.
So,
Can I just ask, what's RCP?
reinforced concrete
Thank
pipe.
you. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
No, and I only ask, I lived on Harry, I grew up and played in those culverts basically.
Yeah, so
it's
Harriet's got RCP on it too. The
Yeah.
big one down at the end where the cul-de-sac is, that's RCP.
Yeah,
And I think that's only an 18-inch RCP,
Yeah.
so, you know, again, I think it's in great shape. And we're gonna do a pre-inspection on it before we
Yeah.
pave it.
yeah, that was like, I was thinking specifically of that one, the one on the corner, and then down below,
Yeah.
kinda halfway down Janelle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We changed one of them halfway down Janelle, but it's a driveway. We changed that from 12 to 15 to help the problem.
Was that one that washed out a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's taking more volume. There's a lot of volume that comes down the side
Yeah.
of that road. So,
So I appreciate everything you said towards that. I'm happy to help with that, and I didn't want to derail your presentation, but it was something that we.
No, like I said, I really would like the working group to come alive so that we can start looking more towards the future. Like I said, I do have a skeleton of it,
Yeah.
you know.
So as far as the working group, Sean is from the board, are you comfortable with Paul from the budget committee?
If we can get him to come aboard.
I don't have any issue with that, I don't know if anybody else does.
No.
Why not if he wants to, I mean, he's.
Yeah.
What's
He's
really
the chair
interesting,
again.
yeah, I mean, what's interesting is I
He's the
just.
chair, Paul's the chair again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
He
it,
just got voted in, yeah.
The nice thing too
And
is
he's
he's
also on
also on
CIP, so
CIP.
that-
Jinx.
Yeah, that would help too.
Yeah.
Poke you, okay, coke.
Yeah.
I just asked Brock, like, what grants are available in New Hampshire, and it just gave me 5 with funding dates, like, certain grants gotta be filled out by like July 28th and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean,
No pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, I mean, so it all depends, sort of depends on sort of like the schedule and whatnot, but the point is, I think there's a lot of different resources that will help us address the
Yeah.
grant side too.
Do you have a pipe inventory or database or?
So it's funny you say that. So we got the GIS mapping system and
Yeah.
we just got, Mark and I had it, but Mark just we kind of sat on it.
Yeah.
It's just how things ran down there. But Ashley just got trained on how to do the matrix to it, and we can add to it and take away from it, so we can start. And now we do have the rough layout of drainage, but there are a lot of, it was laid out, Jeff and Mark laid it out, and so we do have under drainage on there, but it's confused because some of the state drainage is blended in there, what's ours, what's not ours. And it does not indicate, where we have easements and where we don't have easements,
Yeah.
like this issue of Holiday Hills and what's going on up there right now.
Right.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, no, that one's from the planning, I was on the planning board when we had to work for the holiday.
Oh,
Well,
well, yeah,
that's
it's
That's
bigger,
nice.
it's a bigger problem now. So anyways, so the answer is kind of like what Ben was just saying, it's a yes in progress.
Yeah.
And she just got qualified, actually today had a big class on it, and I'm excited about it, because now I can literally just take grid coordinates of entrances, exits, and then tell her what's in there, and she can map it out in seconds.
Awesome.
Is she using the staff login or is she using?
I don't know, she just got out of the class today.
So we have two options.
Right.
In our mapping program, which I wiped out in our mapping program for CAI, we have a staff login where they can go in and enter. And we can decide if it goes on the maps or not, because sometimes there's information you don't want to go on the public side of the maps. But we can also run maps, and the way the program's set up is you can list culverts out, you can list what it is, you can list what type of paving is on the road, or if it's not paved, and so on.
Good.
But Jeff's program, which is the asset management program that you saw, also gives us an opportunity to do something using their ArcGIS, and if they get the tools.
Right, both the GIS system and that system, we can lay out a 10-year plan physically on the map and highlight it in different colors and saying, this is the projection and this is the problem. I just had a thought I lost. It couldn't have been that important.
it's
It's
going, it's in the air.
that kind
If
of.
somebody, if my idea or whatever I was thinking hit somebody, let me know what it was. So,
Good, Jeff.
I mean, well, and we can go right into, one of the reasons I wanted, so the working group is, if you look at like our daily schedule, work schedule, I've got the work schedule here. Our work schedule, when you talk about everything that goes on, this is just, this was just this week alone of, so you got everybody from the decorating committee to Kelly Park to Holiday Heights and all those issues confronting us, plus maintenance and equipment repair. Part of that working group is also to sit there and say, is there enough time in the summer for highway to actually do this, or is this something we should forecast out and bid out? Okay, that is, do we want to tie the crew up that should be out doing maintenance to do a project?
Right.
Is the project too big? And that's where the working group, I also want the working group to focus on, and that's why I wanted a budget committee member on there to go, dollar for dollar, are we getting the bang for the buck
Yep.
out of our, by doing a project and taking the crew or
Just
most of the crew off for 2 weeks?
Just because they can do it doesn't mean they
Doesn't
should
mean
do
they
it,
should be
yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
And so I'm very honest about those things, and I can take the constructive criticism that the selectman or a budget committee member or the town administrator going, that you might be biting off more than you can chew, because we don't know what the rain's gonna be, or what the snow's gonna be, or how early it's gonna come in. And I do have a lot of confidence in the crew right now. We've got a very, very strong crew, a little young on some aspects, but we get more bang for the buck when we do a project, because we're not hiring out. But should we be doing the project every time? That's where I think if the working group presents it and builds it, and then I present it to the select board and the budget committee, it's an easier buy-off because we can justify it.
Yeah.
So
Some-
that was the intent behind the working group in all its folds, you know, so that we can look at these things and just really go, are we getting the bang for the buck for the taxpayer?
Right. Well, and the other thing I think like comes into that ends up being things like not just the utilization of the staff, but the utilization and the intent for the equipment and what the replacement cycle
Exactly.
is. How many hours are on the machines, you know, like what are we
Exactly.
intending to have happen?
We just nursed the backhoe for almost a year through a catalyst of problems, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed right now. So again, those are issues that need to be discussed, and I think that working group is a good place to do that.
Right, perfect.
So did you want to talk about Holiday Heights here?
Yeah, we wanted to have a preliminary discussion, give you a heads up where we're at with it. There is a hand-drawn kind of map in your folders, and what we're running into.
Do we have the notes from the planning board? Because that would probably be helpful context. Because I know that when we. went
Well,
through that-
it doesn't
Well,
affect what
Yeah,
the
let's
planning
hear
board
it out.
approved.
Yeah, all right.
Let's hear it out.
It's different.
What the planning board approved and what the problem is right now, it's,
Two different things.
Yeah.
it is and it isn't.
Yeah.
Is the map up there?
Yeah, I put it.
Okay, so what's indicated in green is town and town approved. And so the word approved means there were some new catch basins put in
Yeah.
on lot 36 that were approved by the previous superintendent.
Yeah.
When you look at this pipe here, that always existed. This pipe took drainage from this area, crossed it,
Yeah.
and it flowed across here. Now, when I grew up, that was all marshy swamp land right there.
Yeah.
The landowner on lot 29, over the years, previous owners, whatever, piped it. We do not have an easement across that private property.
Yeah.
That pipe is privately owned, no different than when you look at a pipe down on Shore Drive. We have catch basins on the side of the road, and there are pipes that cut through yards all the way to the back to the state highway.
Yeah.
We have no easements on those. Those are private flow pipes.
Yeah.
So, Mark approved several years ago,
Putting it into
we
the town.
were paving that road. And they proposed for us, the first proposal that came through before the planning board, they wanted to put in, this line dead-ended right here, and it fed into this area here. This area built up and it would flow across. They put this catch basin and this catch basin in, and they put a 12-inch HDPE pipe in there, high-grade plastic.
Just real quick, I'm not sure the planning board approved what you're talking, I mean, at least in the last meeting that.
This was approved by the superintendent of highway.
Yes, I mean, because the reason why I was saying, made the planning board comments, because we spent 10 or 15 minutes talking about, do we really want to approve stuff on lot 36 that plugs into the town infrastructure? And to your point, Vic, with the feedback we got was, yeah, Mark said that that was okay. And I know, like, during that last storm, I went up there and took a look, and the water was poking up at
Right,
20.
So Victor, let me ask you a question.
Planning
Sure.
board does the same.
The orange section on lot 36, you've
yes,
got a catch basin that meets at the T on the road.
yes.
And then is that a catch basin in the lot? Or is that like a French drain?
No,
This
so,
one
No, it's
here,
a 12.
so what the lot, now this is what the planning board approved, was this pipe, and he built a rock retention wall behind there about 4.5 feet tall. He's got a 12-inch pipe that comes out and connects into this basin. So what happens now is, plus you've had all this new construction down Cronin Road, but what used to feather out all across here and then go across the road in a 12-inch pipe is now backed up here and is coming across and hitting this and hitting this. The problem is this has failed.
Yeah.
So whether he did this or not, putting a brand new pipe in there, all this flow still would have done what it's doing right now. It's gonna do it more so now because it's reduced down to a 12-inch up here and it's built head pressure.
Right.
So the issue is, we have a failed pipe on lot 29 and the adjacent lot that is, we do not have an easement for.
Correct.
But is the lot, so, the two orange ones, this is sort of where I'm having a hard time. Because the
Yep.
planning board did not approve.
You did, it says it
No,
here.
hold on, the orange pipe on 36, remember, what we approved was, they put that pipe in, and we did like 3 meetings about the Conservation Commission, where does the wetlands end and begin, and the pipe exists, and where should the building be, and we went through like a whole lot of gyrations. So the orange pipe was basically, we said, this is a private pipe, does not belong to the town, that is on.
That's correct.
Right?
That's not the problem.
No, but is the one on 29 also that's orange? I'm assuming that's a private pipe that does not belong to the town,
That's why it's highlighted orange. I have no easement.
right? So the unfortunate truth in that one is then the homeowner needs to.
Yes. So that's where we're at right now, is the landowner at 29 has called saying that the landowner at 36 is saying, you've got a failed system over there, you need to fix this because he's flooding his basement. And I explained to the landowner of 29 that is your private pipe and I'm not coming on a private property to fix it. And now Morrison Construction is involved, and I know they've given them a price. And in my conversations with Morrison was they're pricing it out and they want to upgrade that line to a 18-inch pipe, which would be, it would be perfect if they were to go off on it. My issue is if let's just say the landowner, he is now talking to, because the other landowners up above him on this side of the road are all complaining to him also. But it's not affecting him because it's not flooding his basement, so he says he's not gonna do anything. My issue is if they do something, is where the town has an issue, is let's just say they even put a 12 back in there and get good flow again. The problem is when we cross Holiday Heights right there is a failed 12.
Yeah.
So
So just moving the problem
Right.
downstream.
now you're forcing the issue onto the town. So in my conversation with Morrison was, if you upgrade that to an 18 or a 15, I am proposing that while Morrison is there, and again, this is where, is it smarter to have them do it, they're right there with the machine,
All right.
is, let's say he upgrades to a 15, I would say let's drop an 18 in there. And we'll buy a precast, because it's a deep hole, we'll buy a precast, and I've priced it all out.
So that is pretty deep over there. If I remember, that's
So
like
I
6
priced it all
feet.
out based on an 18 precast head wall and one for the high end and one for the low end, and 2 18-inch HDPD culverts. My deal would be to Morrison would be, you drop the pipe and bring it up and we'll pave it when we do patch and repair in the fall. So he just drops the 2 head walls in and puts a new pipe in, the 2 pieces of pipe in, and then we'll pave it when we do patch and pave in the fall. That would be my recommendation as the superintendent, is let them figure out what they're doing about going across that lawn, but if they come across that lawn, we have to be prepared to do something.
Yeah.
So,
If they don't, sorry, Scott, if they don't, you said it's already, but it's still failing regardless, our 12-inch pipe.
Our 12-inch pipe is fine, their 12-inch pipe has failed.
Oh, okay, I thought you said ours.
No, ours going across the street is in trouble. it's in big trouble. I can clear both ends and get better flow, but it's in trouble.
Okay,
And that one is one of the ones that's on the list
yeah,
of, you know, right now, I would say 4th Street is more of a problem, and Chestnut Street is much more of a problem, 300 Lake Street is more of a problem than that,
okay. but it's-
unless
yeah.
they upgrade. If they upgrade, we're gonna have a real big problem.
Yeah,
So, Scott.
Scott.
please.
So not to open up a can of worms,
Yeah.
but if we're doing one end, would it behoove us to do the other crossing at the 90-degree elbow to, because that's.
That was already done.
Oh, it is?
So when we paved 5 years ago, that culvert was failed,
Okay.
and when they put those catch basins in, Mark said, if I give you the pipe, just kind of what we're saying here is, we'll give you the pipe, you just cross the road with it, and they did.
Okay, all right.
So that's a
So
new,
that one's good.
that's
All
a new
right.
pipe.
Okay.
And we've done that before in situations where a landowner's doing something and we've got a failed pipe right there, we're like, hey, if your contractor's right here,
yeah, absolutely.
we'll give you the material, you just do the job. So we've done that several times.
So the 12 at the top of the crossing the road.
This one?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
up,
yeah.
up.
The angle.
All the way at the top.
Sorry, although, this,
Top of the picture.
oh, this is the bottom technically.
Okay, where does that
It does
go?
look funny.
So that leads into another, it goes into a marshy area, which goes down to the lot,
Yeah,
and they've got a wagon trail across here with a culvert. That easement goes from that culvert right there all the way out to the state road, and their culvert which crosses at the cottages. So,
that's where we had that failure, like, what was it, last year, where it got plugged up and the water, maybe the.
no, that was up by Shackett's.
Yeah, I thought there was another one down there where those houses were.
It did flood up there, but
Yeah, it wasn't
But it
a
was
culvert
private.
failure though,
Okay.
it just too much. So anyways, so it goes into a marshy area, and then he's got a private 12-inch for trail cutting across there. And it goes out, and then it connects into the state one. It's a, you know.
So we're not gonna cause any issues by increasing the.
Well, it's still, it's a dedicated runoff area anyway,
Yeah.
so
right.
if it becomes a problem, that private landowner's gotta get rid of that pipe or upgrade it.
Okay. So I think you're on the right path with this.
Yeah.
What do you need from us?
Well, so so I've got a total number of about $3,500 in materials. If, let's just say it does go, at this point, do I have the authority to say to whatever contractor they get to do that work, to say, hey, if you cut across that road, this is what we're looking to do. And if you want an MOA on that, then, we'll do an MOA.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're gonna need an MOA, and I think
What's
that's
an MOA, sorry?
memorandum of.
Understanding or agreement, depending on which word.
And I just learned today, MOAs are much better than MOUs. So MOUs are
Yes.
memorandum of understanding, MOAs are memorandum of agreements, and they're much more
Yeah.
legal binding.
Oh.
Okay.
So, and I think that's the most cost-effective way to go about this, and the least
Yeah.
intrusive.
Right.
So what about the downstream on the bottom where it crosses the word holiday?
This is not.
That's what we're just.
Oh, so that's further up the road, so,
Well, but because when I went up and looked when we were in the middle of that last rainstorm, right? And you literally could see the water on lot 29
Yeah.
squirting up about 6 or 8 inches
Yes.
out of that catch basin.
Yeah.
Right? And the reason why I'm so staunch on sort of what I think we approved at the planning board was really about the house and not about this, because we were like, are we sure we want all of these private connections into the thing that we gotta maintain, right? Because it just becomes a,
well, either way, it would have been crossing at that pipe anyway. Let's just say they didn't put any in that pipe. That water coming from that
That's
wetland
true.
has gotta cross it.
It's gotta go somewhere.
And like I said, say they didn't put those 2 catch basins in, and then there's a good 12 there, you'd still be having the same problem.
well, because my thought was when we saw it poking up was, is it just literally a restriction building head pressure, or is there constriction
There's a break.
in the lower, where it goes
Right,
across the
right where
road?
she's pointing right there, it is a collapsed failed pipe.
Right.
I'm talking about the green one across the road down at the very bottom there. Yeah,
Yes.
that one, yep.
All right, so that's another, so from here,
Because the flow really should come out of
right,
36.
so
goes down.
from here,
Yep,
all the way up here is old, and it is not in good shape. And that is pipe that would be in the working group of, what are we doing and how are we doing it and when are we doing it?
But that's all flowing down to the lake.
Yeah,
Well, to the, I mean, it's all flowing
Picture, yeah.
up
Right,
on
so-
the picture.
right.
There's not a,
Yeah, if you look at the elevation, it's a 6-foot drop. or 5-foot
Yeah, there's
drop.
probably from that last basin down to there is a 6-foot drop.
okay.
So it all pitches, the road does have a crown in it, so.
Right.
Yeah,
But all the water that comes further here from there's a turn up here, it comes down by these houses and it sheds over
okay.
and comes around. This pipe is failing and this line is not the best. And that's a future discussion, in the working group more of when.
Was that always town maintained?
What, the
Holiday Hills?
Holiday Hills?
The
No, we
roads.
adopted that in 78. What?
The roads.
The roads were adopted in 78, I think
Okay.
is what we just looked up.
I could only tell you back to 94, but definitely.
Yeah.
And just so, John, on your notice of decision, it just says, planning board, the owner has made, is satisfied with the improvements the owner has made to his plan, including updates to drainage pipes and catch basins at his own expense, which he did do. Planting vegetative cover to protect against erosion and receiving all proper permits from DES. Then it talks about septic, then it skips down and says, planning board requests the following conditions be met as part of this approval. The owner will maintain the 15-inch drainage pipe under the deck and porch, so it's still under the house.
Yeah.
All conditions put in place by the Bristol Water and Sewer Department will be met, and construction behind the house bordering the wetlands is prohibited. So,
Because the pipe, I think when we went through it, like, the pipe existed, and we were all like,
Yeah.
is this really a good, like, we were baffled by is this really a good thing?
yeah, it was right under the house, so
Right.
it looks like they've shifted it a little.
It goes
I
on
think it goes under the breezeway from the
Yeah.
garage to the house, so there's no
Yeah.
foundation there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
There's listen, at the end of the day, nobody wants anybody to have a water problem, and when it gets shifted to your property, of course, you're gonna be like, hey, help me figure this out,
But yeah, that's the way to go if they end up doing something.
Okay.
So we wanted you to be aware as well, because one of the property owners feels the town should pay for this in case it comes before you. We wanted you to know what was going on up there and what Victor's come up with for a plan as well so far.
Well, you haven't
Yeah.
left any doubt before we can say with this, but that's okay.
Oh, no, not the name that was on it,
Yeah.
so,
All right.
well, yes, sort of.
All right, Scott,
I have two more questions for you, Vic, while you're here, if you don't mind. With the Kelly Park, with the youth baseball, softball, they now have custody of a riding lawnmower.
Yeah.
Is there room in the garage for that?
When I get all the beach apparatuses out, the coffins and all that, I have no problem with
Are
putting
you
it.
talking
Okay.
this garage?
so-
Yeah,
No.
down at Kelly Park building.
Well, down by the softball field.
Yeah, the Kelly Park.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, the only challenge you might have is
Yeah.
to move a mower, or something.
Yeah, and we've done it before. I did it with Chris. Chris had a
It
machine.
doesn't have a deck in it, on it. so
No, I know, I
it's-
saw it down, it's
yeah.
down there right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
So-
if you need access to the building, I have to.
someone would have
sign up
access,
code.
right?
Yeah, we can put a,
We have a code.
we have a code you can use.
Okay.
We sign a special code for, the highway has one code, and we sign a different code for everybody else.
Okay, perfect. And then my other thing is, have you seen the erosion at Kelly Park near, it was just past the parking lot entrance?
Yeah, we repaired that the other day.
Okay.
The only other thing I had is the Chestnut Street project. We've run into a pretty big snag on that. We can get 300 feet up the road, and then there are 3 telephone poles for the next 300 some odd feet of the line that are right up against the pipe. I bid it out based on the replacing the basins and all that, and Mark had done the same thing, and I have left over from where Mark bid it, and then we ran out of money. My problem is in my conversation with Eversource, I can't dig beside that pipe, I can't dig that pipe out without them being there. They're $1,000 a day to put a truck there to hold the pole up. And if and asking all the right questions, I did say, hey, what if I put my loader up there and dug underneath the loader and all that? And they said, it's a no-go, because if, one of the poles is so old that if it was to shatter while we were going by it, if Eversource is not there, for them to say, hey, actually it just shattered on its own due to tension, it's gonna be a problem. So where we hit the 300-foot mark and the first pole, we can get 300 feet of the road done. Where it is actually really bad, so that's a good note on it. The second note is, in my conversation with Christina, was I may want to delay the second half of that until 2026 and bid out for the 3 poles at $1,000 a day.
Right.
So that I don't want to come back here this year and say I need more money because we didn't have the numbers right. And literally it's because we didn't have the numbers right. But I think I should go up to 300 feet and get that established.
Yeah.
What I can do also is we have like I described to you before, we have problems at the other end at Ellen Lane. If we were to take that material leftover that we were using to go up that line and fix the remaining at Ellen Lane, and then re-budget the last 300 feet of Chestnut Street with the added cost of Eversource at that, and we can reprice that in the fall and reestablish that. So this would be more of a conversation I'd have the working group, but because this project is in play, I would like to, your advice is where would you like to go with it?
How many days are we looking at?
Well, so the problem is the 100 feet in between each pole, so you're looking at 3 days, because it takes us about a day to get the 100 feet in.
2 days on each pole.
Right, so it's 3 days of holding a pole.
Yeah.
So it'd be 3 days. And it would be consecutive days, so it'd be do one pole, get the next 100 feet up to the next pole,
Right, so we're talking about a $3,000 expense that we don't.
Yes, yeah.
And the question is, that I'm wondering is, is there someone we can find $3,000 to just get that done so you can move along with the project as planned?
Is it 3 or 9 though? Because you said.
I'm sorry, what?
3 or 9, because you said it's 3 days per
So-
pole.
$1,000 a day.
$1,000 a day for them to hold the pole.
Yeah,
So,
so are they holding the pole for 3 days while we're doing?
no, it would be, come one day, hold that pole as we get
Okay,
by it.
sorry, I was
Then
thinking.
we're gonna take 2 days to get the other 100 feet, and then I gotta bring them back
You're good.
and hold it again the next
Got
pole.
it. 3 grand, I got it. So-
While we're there, why don't we just take $3 grand out of the contingency and do it?
That's kind of where I was going with
That's
it.
what it's.
Well, so
That's
my
what
my
the
reason for,
contingency is.
my reason for the delay, to say the delay, there was a reason, is we've hit the pipe on 4th Street and it exacerbated that problem. We had a second collapse in 300 Lake Street and exaggerated that problem. And now this, so I do think we could make that last 300 feet last another year. And that's what I'm saying, if we
So if you
stall
have other
that.
priorities to.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is, I say stall, my recommendation is stall that last 300 feet and then take care of the other problems. And if I have time and we have a good fall, I can say I can go up Allen Lane with the product that we bought for that and then re-budget the last 300 feet of Chestnut. And that's kind of why I wanted to go with the delay.
And if it works in that you want to get it done, we'll figure out a way to find
Right,
$3,000.
and that would be a conversation in the fall going, hey, we do have the potential to do
Yep,
this.
yeah,
Okay.
no, we certainly trust you to make those.
Yeah, if you can piecemeal it and it's not a problem,
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
and I'm sorry?
I was just gonna say, as we start these conversations, I can report back to the board on.
Right.
On a meeting by meeting basis. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were looking at doing that, what did we say, quarterly?
Okay.
A quarterly meeting with
Yeah.
with that group?
Yeah,
When Victor gets back, we can sit down and fix the
Okay.
dates and
Yeah.
get them out to you.
Okay. I really feel bad I took so much of your time.
No, you're
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine.
We got,
That's the
we're
kind of
in
stuff we
shape.
want.
And John, nice to meet you, I'm sorry. I kind of knew everybody else, but nice to meet you. You guys have a great evening.
Thank you, Victor.
Thanks,
See you,
Victor.
Victor.
Oh, yeah, 10 o'clock.
10
Here.
o'clock, 10 o'clock.
alright. TA report.
Um, 85 Lake Street, there were a couple of typos in the first quick claim deed that I had you sign. The attorney that's been looking through documents has asked us to fix it, because one of them was a booking page on the signature page. I corrected the map and lot page, no problem, because it wasn't on the signature page, and then we looked and there was a problem on the booking page. So I just need you to re-sign the quick claim deed if you could. The clerk, just so you were aware, non-public, there's another section I wanted to talk about on non-public minutes, but we've moved the closing until April 25th right now, so next Friday, and I'll go to Franklin to Cecil's law office and sign with them. So I'll bring the deed, and if there are any other minutes that we agree on later, then that will go to them as well.
That's closing on Lake Street?
85, yeah.
Okay.
And what about,
70 Merrimack, we've closed, we are, in the manifest, there was recording fees. And
Okay.
we're gonna be sending the deed off. I've notified them that we had to wait for checks to be cut. So I'm sending the deed tomorrow with the checks to Grafton County to record it. They paid in full, and now what we've done is deposited the money and split it into different accounts, because we have to turn around and issue a check to the former owners, so.
for the above?
Yeah, the split is, I can tell you, so the total, revenue that the town has from that property is $43,146.93. So that's been booked, and then the rest of that, portion of that pays for Grafton County Registry. And then the total, going to the former owner is $26,288.06.
All right.
While we're on this subject, what about the parsonage? How's that going?
I'm sending the last of the documents back to them tomorrow. So the attorney that had been working on it had been on vacation and then was out sick. So now she's back, she's done all the documents. I emailed the church to let them know. I should have the documents to them by tomorrow to look at. So I'm hoping this is the last. With them, I may have to reissue the check for the church, but because I've had it issued since December.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be a problem to do that, and then we'll just see, I think, fingers crossed.
Cool. Thanks.
In front of you, we gave you a copy, the land use boards. The land use department worked with the boards to create a book instead of individual flyers. It is a nice tool that can be given out to anyone interested in learning a little bit more about the boards. It's similar to what we already had created, it's just now in one book instead of 5 different flyers.
This looks really good, because you can also see, you can sort of see how they relate to each other, right?
Yeah, it looks really good.
That's actually the piece that I like about the most.
The 4th of July parade, the events committee has set, I have an item that I'll talk to you about non-public from the events committee, but the events committee has set the theme for the 4th of July parade. It's stars, stripes, and sparkles.
Sparkles.
Yep.
Sparklers?
It should be sparklers. Transfer funds, this item missed the consent agenda, but we do want to try to get it taken care of if you're good with it. Just stick me out. It's a transfer from the water and department and the sewer department to pay for insurance and payroll costs, we've already paid for. If you agree, there was a motion for them right there.
I'll make a motion to approve the distribution of funds to the general fund from the sewer department's operating fund in the amount of $42,184.80.
Second.
Motion by Sean, second by John to approve the distribution of funds from the general fund to the water department's operating fund in the amount of $56,201.19. Any discussion? All those in-
Hold on.
You said water.
You said water, he read the second one.
It's the sewer.
He did the second one.
Oh, you did
first.
sewer first?
He did sewer first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on, what do we got?
There's two, you did.
Oh,
two.
there's two, sorry.
Yeah, you did the second
Oh,
one. too.
I'm reading
That's
off
fine.
the town administrator's report, you're
Yeah.
reading off the actual.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just rephrase that. So motion by Sean, second by John, to approve the distribution of funds from the general fund, from the sewer department's operating fund in the amount of $42,184.80.
Yes.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes.
I will make the motion to approve the distribution of funds to the general fund from the water department's operating fund in the amount of $56,201.19.
Second.
Okay, motion by Sean, second by Scott to approve the distribution of funds to the general fund from the water department's operating fund in the amount of $56,201.19. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Cool.
I left
For
it in
this?
the office,
Sorry.
it had the 2 on there.
I just wanted to let the public know there is hydrant flushing that will be starting up. We posted it on the Facebook page and we've also posted it on the town's website. One quick question I've added to my list is, does the board wish to continue meet and greets? So I have 2 new applicants, one for Penny Path Subcommittee and one for the zoning board. Brand new people, they've not been on one of the committees, this committee before, and I just wanted to double check, you're still interested in meet and greets with the...
I think so, only 2.
Yeah,
I am.
I would say yeah, unless it's somebody that's like,
We all do.
if Sean's on the Conservation
Yeah.
Commission, but now he's gonna go, we don't need to bring him in again for another meeting and greet.
I think-
Right, there's a lot of people that serve in, that wear multiple hats,
So
so.
Karen Bemis wears multiple hats, so I probably wouldn't need to bring her into
No.
the meet and greet. But the zoning board applicant is brand new, so
Yep.
It's awesome.
I'll bring them in for a meet and greet. It's, I think that's the first name.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
the husband's on the planning board.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's it. There's non-public, some stuff I have to still talk to you about
Do we have to
non-public.
announce?
Oh, yes.
What's that?
I'd probably wait until,
For water and sewer.
yeah, we could announce that. So, we've approved the hiring of David, and I apologize if I butchered the name, LaBombard. He would be the a new operator in training joining the water and sewer department. And we will be bringing back Ken Pelletier to the water sewer department as a temp, helping out with some coverage. So, I think that's it for announcements. Did I
Just
miss-
waiting for you to say it.
I was gonna say, did I miss something?
Yeah, just waiting for one more thing.
Yeah, wait for the one more thing.
Don't
All right,
That's my job tonight.
I would entertain a motion
Your
to,
select board.
You want to do select board items and public comments?
that's it. It's a fair-
Just one more thing.
That's right, that's why I said I'm on that one.
Done? Should have had you run this meeting, because clearly I'm not with it today. Select board item, Sean.
Come back to me.
Select board items, Don.
I already asked mine.
John.
Okay, I got a small list. The first one I think is fairly easy. You know, when I was on the planning board at Community, we talked a lot about short-term rentals. I would like to see if the board would be okay with having Christina ask both land use and the fire department to take a look at the stuff that they've already gathered. So land use gathered a whole bunch of stuff to present it to the planning board, and just sort of refresh the data so they can be prepared to help present to us around what they think we should try to do, what we think we should, just the things that we need to put in place and compare to other communities. I want to give them like a month or so to get themselves, you know, go through that data. So I'd like us to ask them to do that. Because those are the 2 areas that I think they're gonna have to come back to us and, you know, when we go through it, and go, okay, this is what we think is possible, this is what we think we should do, that kind of stuff. And then we can
Christina, you
figure
have
it
any thoughts on that?
The only question I have is the board, I think it's just gathering information, so I think it's good, but I think the board also needs to make a decision about who's going to be responsible for that in the future. If you're gonna if you are going to go licensing option, who's gonna be responsible for that?
That is absolutely correct.
But I think them gathering the information,
Yeah,
they've
no,
already
it's
done
nothing-
some of the
that certainly doesn't
footwork.
hurt.
Yeah.
My question would be, for the fire department, they haven't done any footwork, so what would you be looking
Yeah,
for?
what do you, that's what I was.
Well, I think what we came back with, when I was here, we said that things like, the safety pieces,
Life safety
yeah,
inspection?
life safety inspection, capacity, occupancy, like,
Yes, we have
you know,
footwork there.
this is why I wanna give him time so he can maybe talk to some of the other communities, cause Joanne had a whole list of, you know, Laconia did this, Meredith did that.
That's- I'm sure that somebody could have Aaron look into.
Right, so then that way they've got time to do that, and then when we have a conversation, we've actually got the data points from those two entities, which would probably be the location that we would say, hey, you guys are gonna end up running with this, right? Now, again, we still have a lot of work to do as far as that goes, but at least that gives them time to get started.
Yeah, Laconia put a lot of work into that. They've,
That's what I'm saying, so, you know, that way it really is data-based, and they're getting us the appropriate pieces, so that's one. Christina and I had a really interesting conversation with Hub 66 the other day that I wanna bring to the
Was that
board.
yours? Yeah.
You know, part of what's going on is obviously, they're looking to continue the transfer of the assets, which is the fiber optics, okay? They're going through potential business change where it's important for them that we get the assets to them. At the same time, one of the things I said to Christina, and I'd like us to consider how we do this review, but contractually, we're tied at the hip. We need to do some reviews. And what I said to Christina was, I think we need to talk to the attorney and say, we would like to have a specialist that reviews these, because I feel like if we don't do that, we're gonna put ourselves at a disadvantage. If you think about the IT infrastructure that we've been putting in place and everything that we've been trying to do as a community, we're trying to leverage that to reduce our costs. We're now gonna have a potential third party come in that had no idea about negotiating anything. They will read that document verbatim, and we will be, there's no like, hey, yeah, well, we sort of meant this together when we dreamed it up,
Yeah.
right?
They
So,
hold our feet to the fire.
but, and vice versa, by the way. So when I reviewed it with
Right.
Bruce is kind of going, he thinks contractually, we have the option to review some things of the potential agreement, right? And we have the agreement for Breeze Line that needs to be reviewed. So this isn't a judgment against our municipal attorney. I just think someone that's got a specialty that can take a look at these things independently. And so, and even if they report back through the municipal attorney, I think that's totally fine. But I think our questions are not really about, does this legalese, is this sufficient for the town? I think this is more of a review of, hey, we got a transfer of ownership. We have a dependency of how this was installed and what we intend to do at the community level. We need a review. And if we don't try to figure some of that stuff out soon, they're going down the path, like they're working on their agreement, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So we can't wait too long. So that was the other thing, I just would like us to be able to
I think
make
we're
that
all on the
request.
Same page on that, I think.
Okay. And then I know next time we're gonna review the priorities, right? Because I think that sort of goes like to the EDC stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are, oh, the other real big one was, I talked to the school system, to the principal of the high school, and I shared a bunch of IT things with him from a town perspective. So he thinks there's quite a bit of opportunity for us to figure out how to work with the school and get some help. So, you know, when we get to our work session, we start setting priorities, we'll dig into that more. But it was a really good conversation, because I was trying to get to them before the end of the school year, just so we can start to get organized.
Like a cost savings standpoint.
Well, yeah, because, you know, when I look at what we do and we look at our agreements, so our Microsoft agreement and the telecom stuff and the number of phone lines and things that we have, I think we can actually fund a high school part-time person to help us do a lot of the chasing stuff down, to then ultimately make it much more cost efficient through that whole process. And then we gain some expertise in town.
And that's one of the things that's always started to cross my mind is this, we've creeped up from a $50,000 IT agreement to, what are we at now, 300?
Well, exactly.
At what point would hiring our own IT person offset those contractual costs?
So clarification, it's 268,000, but that's not all your IT service.
Right.
So that includes your software, for instance, police software, fire
Licensing
software,
and all that,
licensing. That is probably, if I estimated that somewhere around, and I have it broken down, somewhere around 75, I think, for software. It's expensive. And then
Well,
we have one more year with Hub 66 on an O&M payment, and that's included in there. And then IT is about 120, but that includes your backups, your Office 365, and your monthly fees. And then we have remediation included.
I'm not suggesting it.
No, I know, but I don't want
Asking.
people to think
Yeah.
we're paying $250,000 just for IT services.
Gotcha.
No, we're not, but,
it's true, but there's still a lot of pieces that go into it.
yeah.
The reason why I'm pushing for a high school person, you know, to try to do some stuff where we can do some knowledge transfer for somebody in town that's looking to get into that, and then B, for us, the biggest problem I think we generally have is a lack of inventory at times, right? Like, when you look at the phone lines and things like that, what becomes challenging is, well, how many do we have where and what does it do?
Yeah.
Right? So you start with those basics and then we figure out where to go. Anyway, so that's what I have.
All right, Scott?
A couple things. Budget committee met, so we voted in Paul as chair again. Susan Sedano is vice. We looked at the schedule and how that's going to play out. I believe we decided to go with keeping the same timeline, and with the understanding that we're going to have some extra weeks in the off weeks in the busy season, prepping once we give the documents to them.
They're gonna try to
And
stick to second and fourth.
Yeah, so keep the same schedule, second and fourth first. And then in those weeks, Susan and Paul may switch off, who's chairing, just to share some responsibilities during that busy season. So it's not as stressful for whatever Paul needs to deal with.
Okay.
They would like, and I expressed interest, or I told them that because we discussed doing a priorities list and talking points to them ahead of the budget, so they have an idea where we're coming from. And Paul invited the rest of the committee to hopefully plan to attend our meetings at the same point when we're talking to the department heads to kind of streamline the process. They're hearing the same conversation we are from the department head. So hopefully one or two, more of them will attend those nights like Paul did.
Yep.
And so it's just, I think it'll streamline the process. The department heads won't be going in ahead of time, talking to them and then repeating back and forth.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there anything else on that, Christina, as far as budget?
They just also want to make sure that the board is going to stick to the October timeframe again for your submission to them. I haven't got the exact date. We're gonna find. Shannon's working on the schedule for me, but we also have it on our priority list to talk about what you want to schedule for budget, when you want yours due, because it's 4 weeks turnaround, and that's a regular meeting for 2 of those weeks, and a long marathon session for the other 2. So,
That's a discussion we can have
Yeah.
next meeting.
next meeting, yeah.
And then my second is Kelly Park. It's just it's kind of a mess with the erosion coming in off of North Main Street, that whole banking. There was one section that was recently eroded that Victor supposedly repaired. I'm assuming he did, said he did, so. But all along there, the bank ripples and with the grass and then right behind the dugout, or between the two dugouts and the backstop is a mess. And it's kind of an unsafe, and it doesn't look very appealing and professional.
That, so that's gonna tie into my select board items, so.
Go ahead, because I don't have anything.
Okay. So, to kind of tie into Scott's, and this is, so I use that field a lot, both with, actually, both three of us here play co-ed softball, and then I also coach youth softball on that field. And I can tell you that field, in addition to what Scott's saying, and I know this ties into Kelly Park Committee and everything, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's becoming a safety concern of mine.
I agree.
That field was redone a couple of years ago, and I'm not gonna criticize who did it or who planned it or anything, but it's too soft. And it creates a risk of, ankle injuries or whatever it may be. I think it's something we need to, and this is not just the softball field, this is the baseball field as well. And I think that needs to be addressed sooner than later, because I think at this point, we're probably looking at somewhat of a liability. So, and there is also a potential drainage problem down there as well, of failed basin drain.
I would add the whole slope behind the.
Well, and that's the next thing
Third
is
base and the backstop.
accessing the dugouts, like there really needs to be like a terraced
Yeah.
staircase on each side for safer access there too. So, I think might not be a problem to solve this year, but I think we need to be proactive in, what are we gonna do going forward with, both of those fields need to be resurfaced. I know, like Wells Field got done, that got done through, I believe, unfortunately Les isn't here, she'd have more knowledge, but that got done with monies from the TTCC that were raised through fundraising and everything. I know the infield mix they put down out there last year was something like $30,000 just for infield mix. So we're talking about two fields.
So that's $100,000 project. I mean, by the time you.
It is potentially, yeah, but in the meantime, is there a solution we can come up with, like a binder, so that's not so soft that,
Who's the, this is me being.
I'm not sure with the Kelly
Who's the
Park.
responsible party?
it's Kelly Park Committee's really,
The ones that need to.
yeah, and we really don't, it's one thing like, we tie in with the budget committee and the planning board and CIP, but we really don't have any communication with the board and the Kelly Park Commission, so.
You will more now. Victor's on the Kelly Park Committee, and what we're trying to do, what I've talked a little bit to Les about it, is it makes much more sense for Victor to be more responsible for that budget, especially if they're doing work more. So Les is on board with that. We haven't fine-tuned how that will go, but Victor will be more of the point person for the Kelly Park budget. I can tell you that they are also having a problem. They have some updated plans, I haven't looked at them yet, so I can't tell you on that yet, but it does say, it looks like they have shingles and repair on the pavilion. And they met with someone who said that they will do it for free, but I still have some concerns. I'd like to make sure that they have some type of agreement and insurance in place, so I'm talking with Les about that, so.
There's some repairs that need to be done to the dugouts down there and stuff, but that's kind of stuff that, we've got our Kelly Park Field Day down there where we go down and pick up the park and everything. I'm gonna kind of go down there ahead of time and see if there's stuff that I can just do that day without, without the town having to.
There are 4 capital reserves for Kelly Park. 2 of them involve, are specified more for equipment.
Yep,
2 of them are specified more for maintenance.
yep.
I forget how much.
Yeah, I know,
We did use the fund last year.
I've gotten some feedback, to be fair, that, people want, some people want, the Kelly Park, or not so much want, but have made the point that the investment in Kelly Park is not just in the fields. It's also in the pavilion and the other events that are down there, but kind of like I said, at this point, I'm more concerned about this from a safety aspect of the kids and the residents of town and out of town that are playing on those fields, and what liability are we exposed to if we're not keeping them as they should be. So,
Right.
yeah, and we do a good job of it, but I think infrastructure-wise, I think we need to put a little more investment into it.
So we dig the bank back about 50 feet, we make a new grandstand.
Yes, perfect.
Well, we could, yeah, and that's where,
Hopefully it doesn't burn down.
so,
Hold on, Sean's like
No.
thinking, he's gonna point, he's gonna be.
Scott,
yeah.
Scott's a
No, so I knew, this goes back years too, but Mark always said that's a project that he thought the highway department could do, is just grade it back. But I think enough of us go down there on Sundays for youth and adult league, having a terrace double seating area. It can be affordable, like, yes, like it was, with some concrete with, not necessarily waste block, but maybe some nicer stuff, but anyways, whatever.
I'm not even so much concerned to that as I am just players
Yeah.
accessing the field.
That, yeah.
But even the other bank and closer to the playground, they
Yeah.
pile the snow there, and
Yeah.
when the snow melts off,
Yeah,
if the grass is dead and the banking is rolling,
Yeah.
and we talked about the tiered
And to
seating
be fair,
there.
it's not, they don't have any, there's nowhere else to put that, so.
Right, I know,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a glacier there right now, so.
Is it
Yeah.
still?
Oh, it's still there.
Oh, yeah.
It's black, but it's still there.
We did talk about tiered seating there too,
Yeah.
once, that highway thought they could do it, but
So, that's all I got. If we could just kind of get the ball rolling on that, to have a conversation at least.
I will talk to Les and, but it may be something that'd be good to have Kelly Park Committee come in and have a conversation as well, if they have further questions about it.
Now, apparently there was an old building there, like where the horseshoe pits are, or what was the house that was there?
It was the
It
Ford
was the
House.
Preble.
Oh, no.
No, that
The
was on
Preble
that side
House.
of the road.
Probably.
They called it the Preble House.
But where was it in that?
I
It's
don't
somewhere
remember.
where the horseshoe pits and the maintenance
Yeah,
building
okay,
is now. It was that piece of
Yeah.
track is what we were
Even,
told.
even
so.
that area up there, that dirt and where the horseshoe pits were, they're still,
Yeah, the
that's
horseshoe
an
pits
issue
are
too.
still holes, and
Yeah.
if we're not using those horseshoe pits, we probably should make sure that they're
Yeah.
filled.
All right,
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So we
All right,
have
so that's all I got.
public comments.
Okay. Motion to go into non-public?
Motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A32, paragraphs A, B, and C.
I'll second.
Motion by Don, second by John. All those in favor of going into
Roll call
non-public?
vote.
Roll call vote. Sean?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Rob? Aye. Scott?
Aye.